Hey guys, Zelonius here. Welcome to another tutorial. In this one, I'm going to be talking about applying pressure to your opponent, things like team press, offside trap. I'm going to explain the different custom tactics and how you can use them to apply more pressure, some of the instructions, and then I'll talk to you a bit about the team, how they can work for that, but then also we're going to look at some clips, show you how I do it in game. So the first thing is instantly probably applying pressure. Two of the main ways is by having a good team. Obviously you don't need a team as good as the one I've got here, but you want pace, physicality and height. Those are important things that come into play when applying pressure. If you have players with really low stamina, you're not going to be able to apply pressure for as long. Simply put, your team are just going to get too tired and not going to be very good for it. I don't think your whole team needs to just be fast-paced, physical players who are all good at pressing, but you definitely want a few of them for sure, and that tends to be the meta most FIFAs, just what works, having pacey, physical players. For me, the team makes a big difference when it comes to this, and yes, my team's great at it. It's built partly for that, but you can also do it with some cheap teams anyway. Let's go into the custom tactics. The custom tactics is the most important part of pressing in a game, to be honest. So the first part of it is the defensive style. We'll start with drop back. The defensive style is probably the biggest thing that decides how much pressure you apply. If you use drop back, your team will literally just drop back, not try to put pressure on. They'll be very passive and they won't try to win the ball back aggressively. They'll keep the shape ball, so it might be harder to break you down, but they're not going to press much at all. Balanced isn't too aggressive. It presses the ball to the middle of the pitch and keeps your team shape neutral. That's what it says there. So basically with balanced, you can press a bit, you'll keep your shape quite well, but it doesn't really do too much either. Press on heavy touch is basically your team will start to press a lot more aggressively. If your opponent goes really close to you, they take a bad touch, there's a loose ball 50-50, so it's not much more than balanced, but just a bit. Press after possession loss is basically the Pep Guardiola philosophy of football, that after a team wins the ball back, for the first 7 seconds they're going to be the most vulnerable because they've not got the ball properly, they've not set up shape. So press after possession loss, basically for 7 seconds after you lose the ball, your team just go crazy. They basically go team press and do everything they can to win the ball back. This is a pretty aggressive one. Constant pressure is a very risky one, but it's basically like putting team press on. Your team will just literally just go all out to get the ball back. They'll just dart forward. I feel like on constant pressure they're a lot more aggressive. It is quite risky, but it is very hard to deal with for the opponent. Constant pressure is the equivalent of putting team press on. In game you can do that by pressing down and then left with the arrows. Width is a key part to pressure. If you have one width, you're just going to be able to have, well, people are going to be able to just keep going out wide against you, so you have to be careful with that. You don't want to have low width and make it too easy for your opponent. You also don't want to have too high width so they can just play in the middle, so you have to find the right balance that suits you. Depth is based on how high your defensive line is. So if your defensive line's 1 and they sit really deep, it's going to be very easy for people to keep the ball because you're going to be sat deep. If your defensive depth's 10, they're going to have a lot less space because you're going to try to pen them in, try and make it harder for them, but you're going to have more risk of getting behind. So it's all balancing, but when you go on an aggressive pressing tactic, for me, high depth's important. The offensive style isn't really too important. For me, one of the key areas of pressure is the formation. So like the 4-2-3 one's good, but I don't think it's the best formation for pressing. My favourite is the 4-4-2, but a lot of people and pros do like three. I think it's the 3-4-2-1. Any three back formation is pretty good just because you have more attackers to win the ball. But for me, I like the 4-4-2. It just covers lots of areas. It's also very good at scoring. You don't really want to be going a high pressure tactic like constant pressure and really getting aggressive, in my opinion, unless it's quite late on in a game and you're losing the game. But for me, yeah, constant pressure is part of my 4-4-2 ultra attacking team press tactic. Lots of whip still, not crazy, so they're not just hurting me through the middle. 10 depth, it's very hard for the opponent to get out with this. And then I have fast build up, so as soon as I win the ball back, I can attack pretty quick. So you can see here, formation's key to pressing. The defensive style is probably the most important. Width and depth's important. The team's important. Let's get into some actual clips now so you can see me pressing and some examples of it. One of the main things about team press that it does that makes it so hard for your opponent is that every player just bombs forward. They seem more aggressive, quicker, they go for every 50-50 a bit better. And you can just see here, as soon as my opponent wins the ball, look at my team. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players here. If you look on the radar as well, my team are in the yellow circles, my opponent's team are in the black triangles. Every black triangle has a man right on top of him. When you put team press on, I don't have it turned on there. You can see here, you can turn it on by pressing down and left, but I have a tactic that has constant pressure on, which effectively does the same. Every player on your team generally just marks one of their team, and it makes it very hard for your opponent to do anything because your team are straight on the opponent and it just doesn't give them any space or time on the ball to attack. You can see here, a lot of people would struggle here under the pressure. My opponent there has to play it around there, and he finds a good pass out, but here he wants to pass it, but there he passes it there, and then Mbappe wins the ball back straight away and gives me the counter attack. If you look here, this here is a bit of a risky pass. I was close to intercepting it, and if your opponent's messing around with the ball at the back and you can team press them, it's going to be very hard for them to keep it there. And there, he just doesn't have any options. Team press is very good at penning people in, winning the ball back high up the pitch. Like I say, it's risky, but you don't really want to use it until later on in the game. But when you're losing late on, it's a very good way to put your opponent under pressure. Okay, you can see here my opponent's trying to keep the ball. This was in a friendly where I was basically telling Jambu, just keep the ball against me, see what you can do. And he does a good job for a while. Jambu's obviously a very good player, but he's forced to go backwards, which if you can do that to an opponent and force them into going backwards, it often frustrates them, makes them do things they don't want to. Here he doesn't really have a good option. There he's straight under pressure, and you see CR7 wins the ball back straight away. Team press just seems to make your players more aggressive and get to the ball quicker. You can see here, my opponent's got the ball, he's struggling. There's no options. He doesn't want to take a touch with his keeper and risk me closing it down, so he passes it there and he gives it straight back to me. So watch here, straight away. He doesn't want to go down the line because it's marked, he's under pressure. I tackle him nearly. He's going backwards, and then I get the ball back straight away. So you can see here exactly what team press does. A key part of pressure is switching, using the right stick and L1 at the right times. Maybe that's a video we can do for you guys, but switching helps a lot. But team press just turning it on instantly makes it harder for the opponent. Okay, one thing that I like to do is use the offside trap to push my team up the pitch. When you're using team press and your opponent's trying to go backwards to keep the ball, the offside trap can be good to push your team up. You can see it's at the bottom corner here, down on the arrows. That's a great way of, well, that is how you do the offside trap, sorry. Down on the arrows, offside trap, and it should push your team up. You can see there. Watch when I'm doing it. It'll come up. Okay, you can see there, I've done it. My team start to push up as a line. I like to do it at times when my opponents are not going to go forward. If you do a bad offside trap when they're going forward, they might just be able to run past you or do one through ball. So be careful with it. It's risky. At first you might struggle with it, but it is a very good tactic when you use it right. You can see here, I'm just using it to push up. It is a good way to apply pressure and catch your opponent out. Sometimes you'll get offside traps as well, where your opponent will just play it to a player who's miles offside, or they won't be ready for it. The offside trap is a really good way of just applying more pressure. Team press, offside trap, tactics, these are all ways that you can apply more pressure to your opponent. Start using these to practice. It's going to make a big difference to your game, going to help you out a lot. Appreciate you guys watching this video. Have a great day.